faster flow of propellant across those engines, and when that happens, that drops the temperature. But the flow, the pressure, they're not getting the pressure they need on engine number 3, and they believe it's because they don't quite have the right pressure yet, right flow, so they're working some troubleshooting steps. We're tracking another issue, which is some frost formation that appears in a line on the flange of the inner tank. That's currently being looked at and evaluated. No word yet on what that might be, whether a defect in the TPS, thermal protection system, or if there's something going on with the tank. It's unclear at this time. Engineers are evaluating. Stand by. 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time here at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. You're looking at Launch Complex 39B and the Space Launch System with the Orion spacecraft on top. Getting into the pre-dawn hours. It's a beautiful picture out there. We are in the midst of cryotanking the world's most powerful rocket with the largest ever built propellant tank. The team got started and got the go from Charlie Blackwell Thompson at 1:14 a.m. Eastern Time. The team working diligently to get nearly 750,000 gallons of super chilled propellant flowed into the rocket. You're looking underneath the core stage now at the 4 RS-25s, where currently engineers are trying to troubleshoot an engine bleed issue. Those 4 RS-25s that you see right there need to be conditioned for launch with a flow of liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. On the liquid hydrogen side, having a little bit of an issue. Engine number 3, which is behind the engine on the right-hand side, isn't quite getting the engine bleed flow that it needs to, and that's indicated by the temperature readings that they're getting off of that engine. At the top of the rocket, you can see liquid oxygen venting from the top of the spacecraft, both from the core stage and from the ICPS. Those tanks, the core stage, we'll start with that one, is at 100% and is in replenish. And the upper stage, the ICPS, liquid oxygen, is nearly full. Currently still being filled. We're still in fast fill on that upper stage liquid oxygen tank. There's another issue. There's an item that the launch team is looking at on the rocket. It appears to be a line of frost on the inner tank seal on the exterior part of the core stage. We don't have a shot on that, but engineers do, and they're looking at their cameras and studying it and going over with the experts on the core stage on what that might be. So working both those issues in parallel. Our T0 time is currently set for 8:33 a.m., but it's largely anticipated that that's going to be slipping. Assistant Launch Director Jeremy Graber told us about an hour ago that the team is evaluating the delays and what kind of impact they would have on T0, but they won't have a full understanding until they really continue to work all sides of this. For the configuration of the rest of the rocket, that team continues. They're doing their job. There's 91 engineers here inside firing room 1 at the Launch Control Center. And they're working away. But the big job is the cryoloading and getting these tanks ready to propel the Space Launch System off the launch pad. And it's a complex process. We're scheduled to start our main broadcast at 6:30 a.m. It's a big broadcast that we have planned for our moon rocket, and we're eager to share it with you, but because of the issues that we're working that I just mentioned, we're going to stay with operational commentary for the time being. So we'll keep you updated on the engine bleed, as well as the abnormal frost buildup on the core stage tank. I shouldn't say abnormal. It actually could be normal, but they're evaluating it. A line of frost on the inner stage flange. We'll keep you updated. This is Artemis Launch Control. T-minus 1 hour, 23 minutes and counting. Beautiful shot right there of Launch Complex 39B with the SLS on the pad. Want to point your attention to a couple of things that you see there on your screen. First of all, we got a beautiful sunrise coming up at 6:59 a.m. Eastern Time. You see it the 2/3 up the way of the rocket there in the butterscotch colored portion, the vapor trail that's coming off the rocket. That's liquid oxygen venting. Down at the bottom of the rocket, venting liquid oxygen there as well. They're currently trying to troubleshoot an engine bleed. There's 4 RS-25 engines. The one that is blocked by the one on the right is engine number 3, and that's the one they're having trouble getting down to the proper temperature. These engines have to be conditioned before launch, and the way they condition them is they draw a bleed, an engine bleed, from both the liquid hydrogen and oxygen tanks. And the temperature range is a tight one. They recently reopened the vent bleed valve after closing it. They've done this twice. Just listening to the team and learning that that did not resolve the issue. You see the flare stack to the far left of your picture there. That is hydrogen gas burning off. That's normal. That is you've got on the liquid oxygen side, you have the vent at the top of the rocket, but for the venting of the hydrogen, you have a flare stack. Hydrogen, obviously, a lot more concerning to have that build up in places. You can't just release that into the atmosphere, and so they burn it. It has that color orange, not because that's the color of hydrogen. Hydrogen, when it burns, is actually colorless, but it's the impurities in the system that give it that orange flame. That's a beautiful shot as well. Currently working these issues. I'm going to let you know what happens. It's a very active time with the team. We have a big launch broadcast planned for you. We're currently putting that on hold for the moment, letting the team work. We'll continue with operational commentary for the moment. This is Artemis Launch Control. Artemis Launch Control with an update now. The launch director just signed off on another troubleshooting plan to get the engine bleed and engine number 3 going. So they pressurized the tank, bled all 4 engines, and engine number 3, which is behind the one on the right that you see on your picture there, is not getting the proper engine bleed in order to condition it for launch. And they want to see that they can get this in that temperature range as an important test before continuing. And the latest plan is to close the pre-valves on engines 1, 2, and 4 and let the tank vent through the 3rd engine. And so the pressure to the tank is coming down now. They're venting everything through 3, trying to get that bleed valve going. Just to summarize for you, if you're just joining us now, we are currently working a troubleshooting plan on the RS-25 engines with regards to an engine bleed, which is a requirement before the rocket can launch. This is on the core stage liquid hydrogen side. At 1:14 a.m. Eastern Time, Launch Director Charlie Blackwell Thompson gave the go for tanking. Both core stage tanks, liquid oxygen and hydrogen, were filled. Upper stage nearly filled. This coming after a roughly 45-minute weather delay. Once the tanking for the core stage was finished, they started venting the hydrogen side on the engines and discovered that engine number 3 wasn't at the right spec that it needed to be. And so currently they're going through a number of troubleshooting plans. And we're paying attention closely to that process. We have a broadcast plan for you for launch. Currently holding off on that and sticking with operational commentary as the team works to resolve this issue. This is Artemis Launch Control. team's now opening the pre-valves on the 3 engines that they closed, lowering the pressure in the tank. Again, the valves on the 3 engines that were closed, they are now opening them up. They didn't see the bleed that they were looking for on engine number 3.
Good morning to our audience joining us here on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, as well as on the WFLA YouTube page. An absolutely gorgeous look from Kennedy Space Center on Florida's Space Coast at the rocket that we hope will be taking off at 8:33 Eastern Time, about an hour and a half from now. JB here with you live, folks, in the WFLA Now Stream Center. Good morning to wherever you are watching from. I know that some of the updates this morning have been less than encouraging, as of course engineers are working through some engine issues as pre-tanking operations are currently underway, pre-launch tanking operations, excuse me, but an absolutely gorgeous sight. We're about to be joined by Amanda Holly, who's going to be delivering a live report here for us in just a moment. We'll continue to listen in here live on WFLA.
Hydrogen tank, 538,000 gallon liquid hydrogen tank.
To those of you joining us on the WFLA YouTube page, good morning to you, or perhaps good evening or good night. We know that we do have an international audience tuning in. All eyes on Florida's Space Coast. All eyes around the world, especially from space enthusiasts, as we are inching a little bit closer, perhaps, hopefully, I'm going to stay optimistic here, to the Artemis 1 launch, a massive launch for NASA, a massive launch for space exploration, and a massive launch for mankind. We're going to be going over some crazy facts and also have a live report here momentarily from WFLA's Amanda Holly, who is standing not too far away from the launch pad. She's at the media staging area where she's going to be delivering a live report, and she is receiving updates from NASA, as we understand it, so she will be providing an update. You'll also hear updates from Operation Control. This is the NASA broadcast feed, so we'll be featuring your comments as well. You can use hashtag HeyJB to let me know what you think of a little bit of history coming our way, perhaps a little bit later on this morning. We'll stay here with you live on WFLA Now. Again, stand by for a live report from WFLA's Amanda Holly.
Yeah, and not surprised with this one, guys. That's why we have a 2-hour window. We do have time to work through issues, and that's exactly what has been happening all night long. Started around midnight, where some lightning was in the area, delayed actually fueling the rocket for about an hour. They did get fuel in the rocket, but once that started, there was a hydrogen leak that was detected. That seems to have been fixed as well. The two latest problems that teams are working, and not something that you really want to hear when you're talking about the first launch of a vehicle, a possible crack in this core stage, this orange tank that you see here, right where these two meet in this ribbed area. There could potentially be a crack that they're detecting some frost, some ice buildup in that crack. You're using high definition cameras to look at it to see if they can proceed through that. We're waiting for an update on that. The second issue is there's a pressure issue with one of the 4 main engines on this core stage. They don't like the pressure values that they're getting, so they're testing it a little bit more. Again, that's why we have a 2-hour window. It's good that we do, because I do think that the teams are going to need it if they're going to try and launch today. It looks like maybe the middle of the window we're aiming for now. It goes all the way up until 10:33 a.m. You know, weather's always a concern. Right now it looks beautiful. We had a gorgeous sunrise. There was beautiful colors on the horizon, but there are some showers out there. The beginning of the launch window, favorable forecast about 80%, but the closer you get toward the end of the window, that launch weather degrades to about 60% of favorable conditions. We're watching it. It's just going to depend on the showers. It cannot launch through any rain. It can launch through some clouds, but of course lightning is an issue, and that precipitation we'll be watching for. Yeah, depending on the issues that we work through today and if they determine it needs to be scrubbed, right? If it's a crack, maybe it might have to be rolled back and not attempt at all. But if it's something like weather, there are 2 launch backup opportunities, one on Friday shortly after noon, and then one on Labor Day at around 5 o'clock in the evening, which of course you know, the later in the day we get here in Florida, we deal with those thunderstorms. So another issue that we'll have to be looking for over the next 7 days. Yep. Cool.
And that was WFLA's Amanda Holly delivering a live report in our morning newscast. And again, good morning to wherever you are watching from. JB here with you live on WFLA Now from the Stream Center. We're going to be popping in here momentarily with some live reports and also to feature some of your comments out of the Facebook Live and YouTube Live comment sections. We're going to be live on Facebook shortly. Right now, streaming live to the WFLA YouTube page where I see a lot of folks joining us. I see Matt, Spanky, Mix-a-Lot, Richard, Eugenia, Jimmy G, John Bettman, just saying hello to wherever you're watching from. In fact, why don't we get some comments going? Let us know where you're watching from this morning. Are you joining us from Florida? Are you joining us from the United States? Are you joining us from North America? Are you joining us from Europe or Asia, South America? Where are you watching from? Would like to see some comments going. You can use, of course, hashtag HeyJB if you'd like to have your comment featured on screen. And let me just show you exactly what I'm talking about here, like this comment from Kai, hashtag HJB, what was with the engine troubleshooting issue? I think Amanda really just did a good job of explaining it, but there's a possible crack issue in that ribbed area of the main core stage that Amanda was just talking about. And then, of course, there's some other issues as well, but that possible crack is the main focus right now. We'll continue to get updates from NASA. We'll continue to provide you with those updates as they become available. But of course, want to make sure that we're getting your comments on screen, making sure that, of course, that your voice is heard wherever you are watching from. We have some other feeds to bring up here soon as well, keeping an eye on our feeds to show you just how many people have descended on Florida Space Coast, how many people are at Kennedy Space Center to witness perhaps history if we do get a launch somewhere between 8:33 and 10:30 or so Eastern Standard Time this morning. So I'll be paying attention to the Facebook Live, YouTube Live comment sections over the course of the broadcast, over the course of the live stream. But of course, want to let you know as well, we are looking for where you're watching from. You can, of course, tell us where you're watching from. You could use a flag emoji, whatever you'd like. We're here live from Kennedy Space Center, Florida Space Coast, for perhaps the Artemis 1 launch sometime after 8:33 Eastern Time. Backup plan would be Friday, but hey guys, let's stay optimistic. Glass half full type of people we are. Let's try to stay optimistic. And again, if we get any updates from NASA, we'll be able to hear the audio from, of course, Operation Control. And we'll pass along any updates that they share online here as well on WFLA Now. We're about to take some comments from the WFLA YouTube page. Hello to those of you joining us on YouTube. Want to read the very latest update that we have from NASA officially, and it's titled Engineers Troubleshooting Engine Conditioning Issue. Again, this is not new. This is just, I'm reading a bit of what came through a short time ago. This is basically the same thing that we've been hearing this morning, but I want you to hear it in NASA's terms. And it reads as follows. While liquid oxygen loading into the interim cryogenic propulsion stage continues and core stage tanks continue to be replenished with propellants, engineers are troubleshooting an issue conditioning one of the RS-25 engines, engine 3, on the bottom of the core stage. Launch controllers condition the engines by increasing pressure on, and then it goes on to continue the entire explanation. But that's the latest that we have. Teams are also assessing what appears to be a crack in the thermal protection system material on one of the flanges on the core stage. They are connection joints that function like a seam on a shirt and are fixed at the top and bottom of the intertank, so the two tanks can be attached to it. Definitely, as Amanda noted, that's not what you want to hear about 90 or so minutes before launch. We're actually now more like 80 minutes or so before the scheduled launch window. Again, so the launch window is 8:33 Eastern time, but that doesn't mean that we're going to have a launch. Listen, if everything is green lights at 8:33, of course they launch, and we would know before that if that's going to be the scheduled launch time. However, they have roughly a 2-hour window. So issues to sort through, and engineers with NASA, of course, are going to be sorting through these issues. And at any moment, of course, we could get updates on the scheduled launch window. Let's listen in to the NASA broadcast that's coming in now.
Engines. If you're just joining us, we have put our regular launch broadcast on hold as the launch team works an issue with a liquid hydrogen engine bleed. We want to stay with our operational commentary for the moment. To recap, we had a weather delay at the top of the tanking today, roughly about 45 minutes. After that, launch director gave the go for tanking at 1:14 a.m. Eastern time. Following that, we had some issues on the hydrogen side. First, what appeared to be a leak on the inlet side of the core stage tank. Engineers took troubleshooting measures and managed to clear that. Got everything seated. And they continued with tanking, getting both tanks to replenish. Stand by.
Let's say hello to some of our commenters joining us on YouTube. If you use hashtag HJB, we can animate your comment on screen. Matt the Future, hashtag HJB. Good morning from Merritt Island, Florida. And I like this comment first because, Matt, you should have a great view. Really, for 100 or so miles, a really long distance.
Team give an update.
Listen. You should be able to see this launch from a great deal away here on the Florida Peninsula. We'll continue to listen in for updates. We do have the audio up full blast.
Engine leak was, I'm sorry, the hydrogen leak was resolved. The team ran the engine bleed on the hydrogen side to get those engines conditioned for launch. And then they ran into another issue. There are 4 RS-25 engines at the bottom of the core stage. All 4 of them bleed out liquid hydrogen when the launch team commands it, as well as liquid oxygen, and that conditions the main propulsion system along with all the plumbing inside and gets it ready for launch. Stand by.
Very interesting to me that we don't have the main broadcast from NASA TV. Usually at this point, they begin their full commentary with an entire team. Really, it's a very impressive operation that they have when they go through really what is, for the day, the most watched broadcast in the world when they do pre-launch coverage leading up to the moment of launch itself with the T-minus countdown. That's on hold right now. Reason being is because there's just so much uncertainty with some of the developments this morning, in particular these engine issues that are forcing the team at NASA to troubleshoot right now to see if we are going to have a launch again this Monday, August 29th, 2022. So we'll continue with some of the comments. Hashtag KJB from Guam. Irene Mano commenting along here with us as well. Back the blue, hashtag KJB,
the
hello from
hydrogen
Ohio.
team
You're the best. Keep
is
let's
working
listen.
on a troubleshooting plan. And I'm listening to them
Just
now.
heard them talk about a troubleshooting plan. So there might be an update. Stand by here, folks. We might be getting an update here momentarily. I'm just going to keep reading comments until, of course, we get these updates as they come through. Back the blue, hashtag KJB, hello from Ohio. You're the best. Keep up the amazing work. And hopefully, yes, we get a launch today. Let's stay optimistic. Reading through some others.
Hydrogen team discussing
NajiFN, hashtag KJB, good morning to you.
This very moment. Stand by.
They're talking to the launch director, so this could be an interesting update coming in. Just saying good morning from Malaysia. My goodness. Or from them, good evening to you. CJF, hashtag KJB, do you know why it's been 50 years since we last sent someone to the moon? Just curious. Launches are expensive. A wise man once said, before you ask your question, just know that the answer is money. And oftentimes, when it comes to space endeavors, a lot of it comes down to budget and money and so on and so forth. But also, too, let's not forget that so much of the evolution of space operations here on this planet, as far as getting into going farther than we've ever had before, a lot of priorities have shifted in recent years. We, of course, have had the privatization of space travel in the form of SpaceX and other companies as well. But this is a NASA launch. This is Artemis 1. This is the most powerful rocket that we are ever launching, and it's the most, of course, the farthest that a human-intended vessel will ever travel as far as launching here from the surface of our planet. Listening in here for live updates again, and I'll be paying attention to your hashtag KJB comments as well. Yes, and I want to make this very clear for Ali and our other commenters. This is an unmanned launch, so nobody aboard, but this is a test, if you will, a test to simulate what a manned operation within the Orion space capsule, would be like, and basically the challenges that would be faced next year for potential launch. The idea is to get this rocket off the ground this morning, or perhaps on Friday, that's plan B, in an unmanned capacity. Of course, make this long journey to the moon, stay in orbit around the moon for weeks before returning back to Earth's orbit and then coming back down to Earth. However, this would set up a potential manned launch in 2024, which is obviously extraordinarily exciting to send mankind back to the moon on the most advanced rocket mankind has ever produced. So a lot of exciting prospects, and we're going to be geeking out and having some fun with you with some facts in a little bit. But yes, the big thing to remember is that this is an unmanned launch. This is a test for the next chapter of space exploration for mankind. And it starts here today with the launch of Artemis 1. I covered a story on the northern Gulf Coast years ago, standing next to this rocket. I mean, within 10 feet of this rocket. And it is massive. It is colossal. And these pictures, these images don't do it justice. You feel very small, very tiny when you are standing next to SLS. It's extraordinary. And so we'll continue to spotlight some of your comments here out of the Facebook Live comment section. Be curious as hashtag AJB. I am in India, and I am very excited. Wherever you're watching from, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you're watching from. Glad to have you with us on WFLA Now. Again, one more time, they are speaking now with the launch director. Some communication being had right now as far as the plan for launch. So we will likely be getting a significant launch update here in the minutes ahead as they assess the situation, figure out where they are with troubleshooting this engine leak. They've also used the word engine bleed. That just makes it sound so much worse, doesn't it? But it is an engine leak in that ribbed area of the core stage of SLS. So a lot of, there's been some larger issues, some smaller issues this morning. But the big thing to remember is that they still have time to sort through these issues. Issues before launch are not unheard of. There have been many other launches that we have had in the past that have had issues arise in the hour or hours or so before launch. If those issues remain unresolved up until, let's say past the 8 o'clock hour, then we're starting to get a little bit closer to a possible delay into later into the window, maybe 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, or perhaps if today turns out to be if it's just not going to happen, they're going to push it back to this Friday. That date, of course, being Friday, September 2nd, 2022. We'll stay here with you live in WFLA now. Again, moments away, perhaps, from
Artemis launch control
a NASA update.
At T-minus 41 minutes and 14 seconds. The countdown clock is slated to hold at T-minus 40 minutes and counting. Again, the clock is going to hold at T-minus 40 minutes, so just 60 seconds from now, you'll see that clock stop. And at that time, the hydrogen team is going to discuss their plan with the launch director. They're still working on it. They're asking for 10 minutes, and then they will brief the launch director Charlie Blackwell Thompson. The clock will hold in 3, 2, 1, mark.
NASA making the decision to halt the Artemis 1 launch countdown at T-minus 40 minutes as they assess engine issues that have arisen this morning. As we look here at a beautiful shot from Florida's Space Coast at SLS, which we all hope will be off the ground at some point this morning. But we await word from the team at NASA, working extraordinarily hard, we can only imagine, at resolving these issues with eyes around the world focused on the most powerful rocket ever built to take humans farther into space than ever before. What's really exciting about this, folks, is that this launch today is a baby step towards getting back to the moon, which is a larger baby step, if you will, to getting to another planet. This is the rocket that is designed to take us to Mars. And that, of course, is extraordinarily exciting, and there's been different timetables put out there. But the more successful missions that we have involving SLS and Orion and Artemis, the more closer we are to getting to another planet and setting foot on another planet, which would be perhaps one of the most grand and momentous moments in the history of mankind to this day, or to date. Just absolutely, you get goosebumps just thinking about it. I want to show you a live picture here. This is from Amanda Holly's live shot camera. You can see there, that is the countdown that the media pays attention to. This is the media staging area. Dozens, if not hundreds of camera crews have descended on this area, and they're all looking at the same countdown clock being held at T-minus 40 minutes.
The liquid oxygen tanks are in replenish, both at the bottom and the top of the rocket. You can see there the venting of liquid oxygen, which goes to gaseous oxygen.
We're going to boost this audio.
Team is currently discussing a troubleshooting plan as we sit in the hold. The liquid hydrogen upper stage is in stop flow, as is the liquid hydrogen tank in the core stage. If you're just joining us, we're in a hold after an engine bleed caused a stop in the countdown. The engine bleed failing to reach the proper temperature in sync with the other 4 engines. It's a function of pressure. The team pressurized the tank just about 45 minutes ago, drew an engine bleed, and were unable to get a temperature on the 3rd engine, which is in the back right corner. They're unable to get an even temperature across all 4 engines. So that engine number 3 is what they're currently troubleshooting. Engineers are asking for a little more time to get back with the launch director on a go-forward plan. We're standing by for that.
So still awaiting that major update from NASA. And halting the countdown at T-minus 40 minutes, of course, gives them the opportunity to properly assess where things stand this morning. We're standing by for another live update from WFLA's Amanda Holly, who is there at Kennedy Space Center to give us these updates. We, of course, have been hearing about the potential for there being issues. We didn't know if those issues were going to range from minor to, or if they were going to be more major issues. But this is why we have our NASA correspondent, Amanda Holly, standing by at Kennedy Space Center to provide us with these updates, what she's hearing on the ground and what she's hearing from NASA. We're about approximately 5 minutes away from that update. Some more international attention, of course, here on SLS. Science, hashtag AJB, says Theo here, watching from London, England, in the UK. I've seen a lot of great stuff from the UK this morning on Twitter. And just a lot of folks over there in the UK. Extraordinarily excited if you're joining us from the UK. Hello. Excited right there with you, because this is a very exciting day. Potentially, if we can get SLS and Orion and Artemis 1 launched off of Florida Space Coast. And we also have Uriel saying hashtag AJB. Good morning, everyone. Greetings from Argentina. It's great to see some of the comments in our YouTube live comment section. We are streaming now to a lot of different places. We are live on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. We're live on Nexstar, sister station websites across the country. Nexstar, of course, our parent company, owning 200 television stations coast to coast, including, of course, our station, KHOU in Honolulu, Hawaii. Great to have all those stations watching, and wherever you're watching from, wherever it is in the United States or beyond, thanks so much for spending part of your morning, evening, afternoon, or night with us. Again, standing by for an update from Amanda Holly. There's a meeting going on right at this moment, as we understand it. NASA's launch director meeting with various officials to discuss where things stand and whether or not we are going to be getting closer to a launch or closer to a scrub. and a delay that would push this back to this Friday, September 2nd. The countdown has been halted at T minus 40 minutes as this meeting is currently being had and as the status of the mission is currently being assessed. And again, we will have a live update here from Amanda Holly. This is an extraordinarily ambitious launch. SLS, Orion, this is decades in the making. We've been hearing about SLS for quite literally decades, and hearing about this next evolution of space exploration. This is going to send Orion, that's the capsule that is really atop this rocket, this massive moon rocket. Orion is going to be heading roughly 280,000 miles away from Earth. That is absolutely wild. To make this journey around the moon dozens of times, and before, of course, coming back home to us here on planet Earth. If everything is successful, this is, again, setting into motion a timeline of events for things to progress for us to get to Mars. Let's listen in for Amanda Holly. She's live.
10 minutes. The countdown clock is not moving right now. It's holding at T minus 40 minutes so that NASA can work through a problem on one of the main 4 engines on the core stage. Also earlier, NASA was looking at a possible crack in this orange tank here. That's the main core stage tank. They were detecting some frost building up on that, ice building up on that possible crack. All of those problems still being worked right now. Nothing has been made so that they're not going to launch today just yet. We're keeping an eye on that. But again, this is all part of the Artemis program, which will eventually put humans back on the moon, hopefully within this decade. It all starts with this test launch. We got to get the SLS rocket off the ground, and then we got to get Orion into a 42-day orbit around the moon.
So that was our own Amanda Hollies. We're standing by again for an update. I think that right now Amanda is like all of us, just awaiting the conclusion that is reached.
This is Artemis Launch Control.
Speaking of, let's listen in.
With an update on a previous issue. We're holding at T minus 40 minutes. You may recall, if you've been with us for the past hour, that there was a line of ice that had formed on the intertank on the exterior of the core stage where there is a flange. Engineers have taken a long look at that and have come up with a conclusion. They say that that ice formed along a line. That ice that formed is essentially air that's being chilled by the tank that gets trapped inside of a crack in the foam, but not the actual tank. So ambient air is basically cryopumped into this crevice in the thermal protection system, which that butterscotch colored thermal protection that you see there is sprayed on, and especially at that seam where you see the inner tank between where it starts to go into a cone. In that area, they've had trouble in the past where it's just a stress crack in the foam. And they know this because they can see the offset. If it were a structural crack, one side would be coming out farther than the other. They don't see that. So essentially, to the untrained eye, it can look like a crack, but what it actually is, according to the engineers, is air is being sucked in, chilled, and then comes right back out of that foam as vapor. It appears like, it looks like something is leaking when in fact it's not. And they have a history of this going back to the space shuttle era, which had an external tank with super chilled propellants in it. They call it cryopumping. Air gets in the void because of the cold temps, gets super chilled, and then vents out. In the meantime, we're awaiting the hydrogen team's plan to go forward and update to the launch director. Standing by for that. We'll have that as soon as they give it. This is Artemis Launch Control.
The world awaiting this update on where things stand with Artemis 1 this morning. The countdown remains at T-minus 40 minutes. And all we can do is wait alongside everyone else. Good morning again. JB here with you live on WFLA Now as we continue to await the hopeful, hopefully we get a little bit closer to T-minus 0000. Zeros are a good thing when it comes to a prospective launch. We're here with you live on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, YouTube live as well, as we're paying attention to a lot of different feeds, a lot of different things coming into our newsroom, and trying to keep you updated. But really everything right now revolving around this mission meeting that is taking place with the launch director as they assess where things stand. Approximately 50 or so, 55 minutes or so ahead of the opening of the launch window. As a reminder, 8:33 was the time when they were targeting a launch. That looks less and less likely as of now, that things look more likely that it could get delayed later into the window or scrubbed altogether. But as I promised you, this live stream is going to be glass half full. We're going to remain optimistic. Hopefully you'll remain optimistic with us wherever you are watching from. Speaking of which, let's get back to some of the commenters who are joining us. Eleanor, #HeyJB. Hello from Australia. I love that space exploration brings all nations together. And it certainly does. It doesn't, while this certainly does bring a sense of pride to us here in the United States, and Americans across the country are going to be just overfilled with joy to see this rocket launch whenever it does in fact launch. This is something that that space lovers and space geeks, if you will, myself included, around the world are going to be rejoicing in. No one wants to see our attempts to get farther and farther into space get stagnated by politics or. This is something that brings the world together, brings nations together, and that's also why the International Space Station has been such an ambitious endeavor in so many different respects, including how nations can work together to go farther than we ever have before, as far as having a living space off of Earth's surface. So we'll stay here with you live on WFLA Now and continue to read some of the comments. But this is a lot of fun to spend this morning with you as we hopefully get an update that is a thumbs up kind of update, not a thumbs down kind of update. Let's see here. Miss Ruby is joining us from New Zealand. This is such an exciting time for the world. Hope everything all goes according to plan. Fingers crossed. Janet Shearwood, #HeyJB, is China also trying to get to the moon? There's countries, I believe China included, Japan, India, I know, of course, Russia. There's a lot of countries that are trying to stake their claim on the moon. It is real estate. Now it's a massive piece of real estate that is kind of, that marks quite literally a completely new territory. But countries are trying to get to the moon, and there is tremendous interest in getting to the moon for a variety of different reasons. But right now, the United States is the most advanced as far as their ambitions to getting a man back on moon, or back on the moon, and then of course trying to get man to Mars and farther into space than ever before. So we'll see exactly what happens with other countries, but I know that there are other lunar programs in the works from some various other powers across the globe. We'll see exactly who follows suit. but NASA is very determined to get a team of astronauts back on the moon in 2024. Good morning from Bridgeport, Connecticut, says Josh. Hello. John Wade, hashtag HJB. We're watching from Canvey Island, England. What maximum speed will the Artemis achieve on launch? I will look up the exact date, or excuse me, the exact speed, excuse me. But you know what's interesting is that you're probably looking at it for kilometers per hour. Us here in the United States, we're probably more akin to miles per hour. I'll try to get you. I'll try to get you a maximum speed estimation, though I'm sure that there are some folks in our comment section that are on the ready with knowledge like that. But I will look that up. Somebody was asking in Florida where they can see this and what the trajectory will be. The trail will mostly occur in a direction that goes east off of the Florida Peninsula, off of the Florida coast. But that doesn't mean that us here, we're on the west coast of Florida, on the Gulf Coast side. That doesn't mean we won't be able to see it. There's going to be a massive trail that you're going to see for 100 miles plus. In fact, fun little tidbit for those of you who are really in it for the long haul with us. We will have our helicopter, Eagle 8 HD, in the air above Tampa to provide you with a shot of what the trail looks like from Tampa so that you can see that across the entire peninsula, there's going to be a trail from SLS that you can see and that homes and folks across our great state can see. You don't have to be on. Look, the best seat in the house is at Florida Space Coast. If you're on the east coast of Florida, they have, man, you just pull up your lawn chair and you grab some beverages and you look up at the sky and you enjoy it. But that doesn't mean you can't enjoy it as well from our side of Florida. So we're really excited to bring you that shot from Eagle 8 HD. We'll try to do so approximately a couple of minutes after the actual launch takes place. Again, staying optimistic for that 8:33 launch window start time. Let's see exactly what happens. Diamond Cross, hashtag KJB, good morning from Ohio. Who is ready for space travel? I am ready for space travel. A lot of kids, myself included, growing up thinking about what it would be like to spacewalk and to go to the moon, go to a different planet. You know, if you watch shows like Star Wars and Star Trek, how can you not geek out about the potential of going into outer space? I want to let everybody on our live stream know this is super important. I have audio up full blast from Operation Control. So while you're listening to me right now, just read comments. I know what you're here for. You're here to get status updates on Artemis 1. Audio's up full blast. And if we hear anything, I will be quiet. We will listen in. But it's an opportunity for us to just kind of talk about where things stand and how excited we all are as we await the actual update from NASA. Wow, Olga's joining us from Poland saying high hopes for this launch. Thinking of my friend Daniel, who'd love to spend his retirement on the moon. Fingers crossed, Daniel. That's a fun thought. To retire to the moon? I mean, if you did your whole life on Earth, could that be a retirement plan? You know, your 401k, your Roth IRA, including a trip to the moon I don't know. That's a potential very exciting prospect. Now, look, you have family that you would miss. And if you were, at the retirement age, you'd probably want to see your grandkids grow up. But to say that you are going to retire on the moon, that's you know what? Years ago, that might have been like a crazy thought, but we're getting closer and closer to perhaps one day that being maybe somewhat possible. Now, look, it's going to take a very long time for us to colonize the moon. That's a whole other conversation that, of course, books and documentaries have been produced, all focused on how different setting foot on the moon is different than living on the moon or living on a different planet. So, but yeah, retiring on the moon. I mean, my goodness. How about being the first news reporter on the moon? That sounds fun. Got to admit. Let's listen in. This is an update from Amanda Holly. Let's listen in.
Being held at T-minus 40 minutes, and that is because the teams are discussing options on one of the engines of the core stage. There's 4 main engines, and there's been an issue with one of them with the hydrogen flow, so they are working on options with that. We're going to continue to watch it here from Kennedy Space Center. If we don't launch today within the 2-hour window, there are 2 backup opportunities, one on Friday and then one again on Labor Day. Guys.
Introducing a new digital audience here to our website, WFLA.com, the WFLA app. Florida breaking news, Florida's biggest headlines. Here live on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. Good morning to wherever you are watching from. JB here with you live in our stream center. And we are hoping that today, we can rename it today the Launch Center, because we are hopefully getting a little bit closer to launch, though the updates have not been all that promising. We've been talking about this engine leak as a result of ice in the main core stage that has built up. The main core stage, of course, being that orange section of the rocket. And as we understand it, this ice buildup is in that ribbing section, some of the lining there inside of the rocket. Some ice buildup is, of course, giving engineers with NASA some pause. And, of course, this is, this is exactly why we do this as far as trial runs. Now, while you could say that this isn't a trial run, this is a launch itself, there are contingencies in place for this exact type of outcome. And that contingency could include, getting this fixed in time for a launch perhaps closer to 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. or a launch closer to Friday. On Friday, September 2nd. So we'll see exactly where things stand. Oh, man. Look at this. See, Digital Gangster. I believe you, Digital Gangster. Hashtag AJB. We were talking about the speeds earlier. Artemis will enter the atmosphere at a speed of about 25,000 miles per hour or 40,000 kilometers per hour, and slow to a speed of about 300 miles per hour, 480 kilometers per hour. Google's a cool thing, isn't it? Thank you. I'm going to call you DG. Appreciate it. And reading some other comments. And so, can you imagine going that fast? Now, look, that is the speed that this would travel with or without humans aboard. So, with or without astronauts. So, can you imagine strapping in to go for a ride at 25,000 miles per hour on the most advanced and highly powered rocket that mankind has ever made for space travel? I mean, that's one heck of a ride. A little different than your average roller coaster. Life has choices. Hashtag AJB. Hello from Amarillo. I would imagine that's in Texas. Olav. Hashtag AJB. Hello from Norway. Man, I love seeing all the countries pop in. Hashtag AJB. Aaron. Hello from the University of Florida. Do you think we'll be able to see it from Gainesville? Should we go outside? Look, so here's the thing with other sections of the peninsula if you're not on the East Coast. Look, if you are on the East Coast of Florida, you have a pretty good shot, especially if you're closer to the Space Coast or closer to, Kennedy Space Center. Look at it this way. If you are within a 1-hour drive, think about that, a 1-hour drive of Kennedy Space Center, you're going to see this launch. You're going to see the trail off in the distance. Now, if you're beyond an hour, and I can guarantee you that Gainesville is more than an hour away from the Kennedy Space Center, a lot of it is going to depend on your forecast and how much. Look, if you have clear skies, if you're on a rooftop somewhere, maybe on the top of a parking garage. Listen,
we are currently in an unplanned hold at T-minus 40 minutes for the launch of Artemis 1 from Launch Complex 39B at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. We are awaiting an update from the launch director after she consults with the cryo team on the hydrogen side. They have an issue with one of the 4 engines in the core stage. She's awaiting a troubleshooting plan and a way forward. Engineers are currently discussing that plan at this very moment. The engineers telling the launch director they hope to have a discussion with her shortly in the next 10 minutes, possibly. We're standing by for that. Artemis Launch Control.
Wanted to specify while we have a moment and a clarification. It's not even it's just to clear up a point of confusion from our own Amanda Holly, who is as knowledgeable as any reporter I know when it comes to far more knowledgeable than I, tremendously so, on matters related to space exploration, NASA, SpaceX. She's covered a lot of SpaceX launches. She's been, of course, in contact with a lot of folks at NASA over the course of her broadcasting career. She is our go-to person when it comes to this type of assignment. And she wanted to make sure that everybody understands this, and this is a good point of clarification. So when they're talking about this crack, and you keep hearing about this engine bleed and a crack and this engine leak that we keep talking about and hearing about, that your mind immediately goes to, oh my goodness, there's a crack in the core stages, there's a crack in the actual rocket itself, and that is not true. There's a lining of insulation inside the rocket, and that's where what is very likely to be a small crack that is causing this leak to occur. But the actual structure itself, the actual rocket core stage, if you will, is not the scene of the crack. It's a part of the insulation in the rocket itself, and hopefully that is a little bit more clear. And we'll, of course, try to provide as much opportunities for clarity from Amanda and other NASA correspondents as much as possible here on the broadcast. Yeah, you know, C-Dub, hashtag KJB, you talked to Brian Enton recently? I did. Talked to him the other day. He's well. He's, anchoring for Dan Abrams and Ashley Banfield. He's kind of the go-to fill-in anchor, but I'm looking forward to seeing where he gets sent to next as far as his next big assignment. DG again asking hashtag KGB, why did we only go to the moon? Really only once. Well, look, how do you define going to the moon? Because we have, of course, been to the moon more than I understand what you're saying. And it all comes down to money, and it all comes down to finances and budget. And look, getting mankind to the moon is extraordinarily expensive. Billions, tens of billions of dollars it is to have a program with enough research and development, and then the actual operation itself, the actual mission itself, just the amount of money that goes into the science and the tangibles and intangibles of getting a man on the moon, getting an astronaut on the moon, is just baffling. And so, look, to justify the cost, there's got to be real justification for the cost. And so, look, if it was cheap, we'd probably have a colony on the moon by now. Maybe not a big one, but a colony nonetheless. It's extraordinarily expensive. So, life has choices. I bet we could communicate from the moon. They talked to, oh yeah, no, communication from the moon is entirely possible. We communicate with the rover on Mars. We get high definition imagery from the rover on Mars. So we are way beyond lunar communication. We are at planetary communication at this stage. And look, we have sent, man-made craft into the far reaches of space and established some very, very, very advanced levels of communication with those spacecraft. So, yes, we'll be able to communicate from the moon. Can you imagine one day, maybe long time from now, like doing a FaceTime call from the moon, like saying hello to your family, like, hey, I'm on the moon. It's a cool thing when like you're on a beach somewhere. Can you imagine doing it from the surface of the moon? I'm telling you, it's not that far as away when you think about it from the perspective of, look, we're closer than ever to getting man back to the moon. These things are not as, they're not as sci-fi as they once were. We're closer than ever. And while that sounds like such a goofy thing to say, it is true, and it's extraordinarily exciting. Marie Jubin, hashtag HJB. Are we still talking about T minus 40? You better believe it. Yeah, we are stuck at T minus 40. And we are now past what T minus 40 would have been if we had a launch at 8:33 Eastern time. Right now, the time is 7:56 a.m. Eastern. So that means that we are approximately 37 minutes away from the opening of that window. So that pretty much guarantees that we are not going to have a launch at 8:33, obviously, and it really now creates a massive question as to whether or not we're actually going to have a launch today. As I understand it, there is starting to be a lot of space. I am not a space journalist. Of course, I'm a stream anchor. I live stream, of course, news for a living. But there are space journalists who have worked with NASA, worked for NASA, as I understand it, and a lot of them are starting to have conversations on Twitter that the chances of this launch happening today are becoming slimmer with every passing minute. So these the lack of updates over the last 20 minutes are not very encouraging. That means that they don't have all the information. They likely don't have all the information that they need to ascertain as to whether or not a launch is going to happen today. But of course, we have, again, Operation Control on full audio blast. You will hear them as I will in the same moment if we do get some kind of an update, again, from NASA. Really, folks across the country at this stage, I mean, really, you're awake, and this is what you're focused on. I know that schools across the country, we have any classrooms in our YouTube section, our YouTube comment section. There are oftentimes, I've heard of stories in the past, our live streams have been on in classrooms with entire rooms of kids watching. And if there's any classrooms watching out there, hi. And so, this is a moment in history, especially if it's your first period science class. So if, the point being is that the entire world is watching. Young, old, American, non-American, it doesn't matter. This is a big moment for space exploration. A lot of folks watching, and a lot of folks now awaiting an update. By now, word has gotten out that things are, really on hold. The pause button has been hit, and NASA not really itching to hit the play button yet to resume things as far as this countdown. We will likely not see us get beyond T minus 40 minutes until we get an update in some capacity. So let's, of course, pay close attention to NASA Operation Control, and hopefully we get this launch in today. But it won't be happening at 8:33, folks. But look, bottom line is, and this is so obvious, but I'm going to state the obvious. You want this to go right. So if there's some issues to sort through, you got 5 days before Plan B. That would be this Friday. Gives, obviously, all the rest of today, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then into Friday to get these issues resolved and get a little bit closer to a successful launch. So you want a successful launch, and if it happens on Friday, look, it happens on Friday. We have waited decades for us to return to the moon, and we have waited years for SLS and Orion to launch beyond low Earth orbit and head towards that big rock that we see every night outside of our houses, we can wait another few days if that's the case. Hello from Greece, says Giannis. Hello from Greece. Manvendra, hashtag KJB, love from India. Man, that's awesome. And Nadraj, greetings from Rwanda. Really awesome to see. Abdullahi, I think is actually how it's said. Hashtag KJB, hello from Perth, Australia. I'll be honest, I don't know where Perth, Australia is. I know where Australia is. I don't know
Eastern
where.
time.
Let's listen.
Here at Launch Complex 39B at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. We are currently holding at T-minus 40 minutes. There's an unplanned hold while the launch team works on an issue with engine number 3 in the core stage. We're standing by for a go-forward plan from the cryo team. They're still discussing that. Launch director is on standby. We began tanking at 1:14 a.m. Eastern Time. Launch team getting both of the core stage tanks to 100%. Began tanking the upper stage. Once they started an engine bleed, they found that one of the engines didn't get the high accuracy temperature that they were looking for, and that is a constraint to launch. This is something they wanted to test during wet dress 4, but were unable to because they had a leak develop in the quick disconnect line that carries the engine bleed off of the engines and out to a flare stack. So this was the first opportunity for this team to see this live in action. It's a particularly tricky issue even going in to get that temperature dialed in according to engineers. And so we are standing by. Listening to the launch team, the launch director consulting with some of the members on our team. Still waiting for the cryo team to report out. We'll have that as soon as it's ready. This is Artemis Launch Control.
That update being mostly a non-update, just to come through comms and tell us that they are awaiting an update just like all of us. And the thousands, tens of thousands in other live streams, if not hundreds of thousands, and millions around the world awaiting updates. Perth, I have discovered in Australia, is on the West Coast. You will not be able to see it unless you have some highly advanced imagery equipment. It's going to be extraordinarily difficult. It's going to be difficult to see it in certain sections of Florida, so seeing it from Australia is going to be a stretch. Tuhin, hashtag again, if you use hashtag KJB, we can animate your comment on screen. This is what we do. This is not exclusive to our NASA live streams. This is all of our live streams. Every one that we do, we try to feature your comments, give you a voice, and let you know that we're here to answer your questions and talk with you out there. It says hashtag KJB. Don't worry, the launch will be fine and perfect. Best of luck, NASA. I like that optimism, man. I like the optimism. I really do. I appreciate it. We were talking about if there's any classrooms out there watching the live stream this morning. Autumn Ambiance says hashtag KJB. I used to watch shuttle launches at school. So did I. I also remember from school Uranus jokes. And welcome to YouTube. Of course, you're going to get that type of joke in the YouTube live comment section. There's always one. There's always one. Harry says, hashtag AJB, best wishes from China. Hopefully space exploration could bring all of mankind together. Yeah, this is a joyous moment for the world. Space exploration is perhaps the most unifying concept, right? The idea that mankind can unite as one and not be partitioned off into separate countries, but we unite as one to celebrate the achievement of going farther than we ever have before. It's poetic, it's beautiful, but it's also not easy. And so we're getting closer to that launch, whether it happens today, Friday, or Labor Day. That's Plan C, by the way, is Labor Day. But it's exciting nonetheless. See, I love the optimism. Ozman Mystic, he's got that, see that profile picture? He's got the UK flag there behind him, hashtag AJB. I'm sure that they're going to fix the problem. Really excited to see or watch the launch back. What time is it over there in the UK? What time is it over there in London? The afternoon. It's right in the middle of the day. A lot of attention, I'm sure. It doesn't really matter the time of day all that much, but there's a lot of attention in the UK. Again, do you think you'd be able to see it from London with the trajectory going east? Look, if you had the proper equipment, I'm sure that you'd be able to see it off in the distance. But to actually just like stand outside your house and to see the rocket, it's going to be extraordinarily difficult. Albert, hashtag KJB, is this channel sponsored by NASA? No, of course not. Us as a news organization, like countless others around the world, we are covering this broadcast. It's not sponsored by NASA. NASA provides the broadcast feed, and then of course it is distributed out by the media, us, and we bring it to you on the various platforms that we have across our websites, our apps, our social media platforms. So stand by, folks. We're hopefully going to get an update momentarily from NASA on the status of Artemis 1. Folks, stand by. We'll have an update here momentarily on WFLA Now as to the status of Artemis 1. We'll be right back. Again, update coming if you're watching on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, or on YouTube Live. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be launching on Facebook Live as well with a live report from Amanda Holly. An update coming your way shortly on the status of Artemis 1. Hello again to those of you joining us on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, as well as on YouTube Live. Hi, YouTube. Good morning to you, or maybe, again, afternoon, evening, night, wherever you're watching from. Thanks for joining us here on the live stream. We're going to have a reset here on the live stream in just a moment with an update live from Kennedy Space Center. We are preparing to engage our audiences across all platforms, bringing in Facebook Live, YouTube Live, our app, our websites, and also television stations across the country are going to be tuning in for the upcoming live stream that's coming your way in just a few minutes. As a reminder, we have Operation Control, the audio, on full blast. So if there is an update, and that update we are all awaiting, that update, you'll be able to hear it. We'll all be able to hear it. It'll be up full blast on this live stream. So stand by for a live report again from Kennedy Space Center, SLS, Orion, Artemis 1. It's all there on your screen. Hopefully getting a little bit closer to a launch. We'll let you know the very latest in a live report in just a moment.
This is Artemis Launch Control at T-minus 40 minutes and holding. I just spoke with Launch Director Charlie Blackwell Thompson, who said that her team is still working on a troubleshooting plan for engine number 3 that had the issue with the engine bleed. She's still waiting for more information about that. Engineers are still discussing it and going over some modeling and data. And once they have that ready, they're going to come back to her and have a discussion. And so she says that she's awaiting that. And we are standing by. Again, at T-minus 40 minutes. We'll have more information when we get it.
WFLA Now will begin momentarily. WFLA Now will begin momentarily. Streaming live on WFLA Now, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY.
Engine issues causing a pause in the countdown for Artemis 1, NASA's return mission to the moon. You're looking live there at Kennedy Space Center. Now you're looking at the Stream Center. Good morning to you folks. JB here with you live on WFLA Now. And I want to go right over to our space correspondent, Amanda Holly, who's joining us live from Kennedy Space Center on Florida Space Coast. Hey there, Amanda. Not exactly what we were hoping for as far as that 8:33 launch window that is about approximately now 7 or so minutes away. Very obvious that we're not going to have a launch on time. The big question now is, are we going to have a launch today? For those of you just joining us in our comment section and our viewers that are just tuning in, Amanda, what exactly is the holdup with Artemis 1?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. You know, the launch window opens at 8:33. It's a 2-hour launch window, goes until 10:33. There's been a lot of issues during the entire night. Beginning around midnight, they were supposed to begin fueling the rocket. There was some lightning in the area. That delayed fueling, so that was the first delay, about an hour. They got fuel in the rocket, though, so that was good news. The lightning cleared up. Then they detected a hydrogen leak within the fueling lines. That seems to be cleared up as well. Another issue that was resolved, we were potentially looking at a possible crack in this core stage of the rocket, that orange cylinder that you see. Luckily, officials determined that it was not a crack in the actual metal of the tank. Instead, it was just a slight crack in the insulation. So some frost was building up on the outside of it. So that was somewhat resolved as well. The main issue that we are working right now, and why the countdown clock is not moving, is because of an engine issue. One of the 4 engines on the core stage is not responding properly. It's not coming up to temperature. They've had some pressure issues with it. And it's just one, it's engine 3 of the 4 engines. So the launch director and NASA teams, the hydrogen team, they have been talking about this, talking about their options, looking at computer data, and analyzing what their options are here for the launch attempt today. No official word on a scrub has been given. Again, we have until 10:33 in the morning to launch, but right now the countdown clock is stopped at 40 minutes. So we at least have 40 minutes to go. And there's also a planned hold at T-minus 10 minutes. I don't know if they would actually go through that planned hold, if they resolve this issue. There's a lot of question marks being worked right now. It's been an ever-evolving issue over the past hour and a half or so since these newer issues have arrived. But right now, we are in an unplanned hold at T-minus 40 minutes as NASA works through these issues.
Amanda, we're talking about this leak, this crack in the insulation with the core stage, the main core stage. When we're talking about this crack and this leak, do we have any idea how small we're talking here? I mean, we're talking inches. Are we talking even smaller than that? Because as we know, with how complicated launches can be, even the smallest of issues can create the biggest of holdups. So do we have any idea how significant this delay is?
Something that I have been reading kind of through the social media feeds is that it's not nearly as big of an issue as it was. It's not something that is stopping them at this moment. So a crack in the insulation may be something that they can actually work through. Not exactly sure how big it was. I know that there are high definition cameras on the launch pad that they've been inspecting the vehicle. That's what kind of picked it up. They detected some frost. So had to be bigger than, you know, millimeters, but I'm not exactly sure how big it was. We've been live out here all morning doing live shots and on TV, so it's been a little difficult to keep an eye on the video feeds from NASA, unfortunately. But again, that's not the main issue at this point, but certainly not something that you want to hear during a countdown attempt, right? A crack.
Amanda Holly with us live at Kennedy Space Center. I think, Amanda, you have to get going for a broadcast on television. We'll let you get going. If you want to hop back on the live stream, Just shoot me a text message. We'll get you back on the live stream for a little bit of a Q&A with our audience. Again, here with you live, folks, on WFLA Now. We'll continue to check in with Amanda Holly from Florida Space Coast. Now, we have operation control, the audio pumping through on this live stream. So if you hear a voice other than mine or other than Amanda's coming through that sounds like it's a radio comm, that means that they're giving an update, and we'll all just kind of, be quiet so that we can listen in for what that update is. We've been getting intermittent updates over the last couple of hours. Artemis, the team did share this update recently. At least NASA shared this out to the public. I'm going to read it as follows. Teams are in a hold on the countdown at T-minus 40 minutes while engineers continue to assess an issue conditioning engine 3, one of 4 RS-25 engines on the bottom of the Space Launch System, SLS, the rocket's core stage. Engineers are looking at options to gather as much data as possible. So, of course, they're weighing their options right now. Let's go over, obviously, plan A is to get this rocket off the ground by 10:30 Eastern time. That is when the window closes. So we have an opportunity here still over the next 2 hours, really beginning right now, 120 or so minutes to get SLS on the right side of your screen into low Earth orbit and heading towards the moon. If it does not happen by 10:30 or so Eastern time, what that means is that they're going to scrub this to plan B, which would, of course, be this Friday, September 2nd. If there are issues that occur also on Friday as well, we're talking about a Labor Day launch in the evening. But as Amanda has been noting, of course, Amanda being our meteorologist here at WFLA as well, that launch would be more troublesome because we're talking about an evening launch. Again, there's only certain windows where you can get this spacecraft on the proper trajectory to the moon. And if it is on Labor Day, we're talking about the potential for, evening showers, the same evening showers that we've been getting really almost daily over the last couple of months here in the state of Florida. So a lot of different complications. Rocket launches are not easy. Problems occur, scrubs occur. And so there is a chance that we do not have a launch today. But really, so many eyes around the world are focused on this update from NASA as far as whether or not we're going to witness history today. This is the most powerful rocket ever launched that's going to carry man to the moon in 2024. Of course, that's what we're hoping for, is what NASA's hope is to get this unmanned launch here in the next week in 2023. 2024, of course, would be the same launch except with astronauts aboard in the Orion capsule, sending astronauts back to the moon surface. And then, of course, beyond that, this is the rocket. This is the vessel. This is the spacecraft that could take us to another planet within our solar system. All eyes are on Mars should these missions be successful, both in 2023 and, of course, next year in the manned launch as planned in 2024. We're going to continue to read comments out of the Facebook Live and YouTube Live comment section. For those of you looking for the NASA TV broadcast, all plans pointed to NASA's full broadcast production being on at this point. That's where they have, of course, former astronauts, current astronauts, as far as a lot of live interviews. They have a full panel, analysts talking about where things stand. That has not begun as we understand it. And the reason being is because of just the high amount of unknown, and perhaps as well, just this now lingering sort of question as to whether or not we're actually going to have a launch today. So this, of course, is getting, with every passing minute that we don't get an update, it becomes less and less likely that we do have a launch. We are listening in for Operation Control to provide us with that update. We are going to try to get you updates as well from various reliable sources and credible sources online as well, and paying attention, of course, to this gorgeous shot here on the right side of your screen with SLS, with Orion there towards the top. Artemis 1 currently in a state of we're in a pause at T-minus 40 minutes in the countdown, hoping that we get a launch by 10:30 Eastern time, but we really
with an update. Launch Director Charlie Blackwell Thompson has called a scrub for today. Again, Launch Director Charlie Blackwell Thompson has called a scrub of the attempt of launch of Artemis 1 and the Space Launch System with the Orion spacecraft. The issue that came up was an engine bleed that couldn't be remedied, but the rocket is currently in a stable configuration. It was mostly tanked, but not completely tanked. Engineers are now working on a plan to continue gathering data about this particular engine and the bleed that didn't work out. The rocket, the hydrogen bleed rather, was a goal of the previous wet dress rehearsal that didn't happen due to a hydrogen leak. So engineers are focused on gathering as much data as they can at this time. So they have not gone to draining the rocket just yet. They're going to keep it in its current configuration and gather that data. To summarize, we held at T-minus 40 minutes and counting after the team was unable to get past engine bleed that didn't show the right temperature once they got into the engine bleed test. And ultimately, the launch director has called a scrub for the day. The earliest opportunity, depending on what happens with this engine bleed, would be September 2nd. That is available to the launch team. However, we will await a determination of what the plan is to go forward to remedy the engine bleed and then go from there. Again, an availability to launch, the next availability to launch is 12:48 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, September 2nd. But we must wait to see what shakes out from their test data that they're currently gathering now, and the decision that's made by the launch team about where to go from here. We appreciate you watching NASA TV and our coverage of the Artemis 1 launch attempt. This is Gerald Nail with NASA Communications signing off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Thank you.
Breaking news on WFLA Now. Here's JB Buno.
History will have to wait a little bit longer. Unfortunate news, but news that was expected after delay this morning. Artemis 1, the launch has been scrubbed. It is now set for Friday afternoon, this Friday, September 2nd, and we can only hope that Friday will be more successful than today. Hi there, folks. JB here with you live on WFLA Now. If you, of course, were looking for Artemis 1 and that launch that was supposed to occur at 8:33 or sometime after 8:33 Eastern Time, that launch will not be happening today. The most powerful rocket ever designed to take man farther into space than ever before. That launch will not be happening today. NASA just announcing that due to, of course, various engine issues and engine leak issues, they have decided to put off the launch for today and reassess where things stand, hopeful for a 12:48 Eastern Time launch this Friday, September 2nd. Disappointing. Kind of not the news that we were hoping for, but in the grand scheme of things, when you think about all the many years, the decades that we have waited to go back to the moon, the decades that we have waited for SLS to really have its shining moment, this is just a small delay in the grand scheme of things as we now look towards the month of September for a launch. We're going to bring in Amanda Holly back shortly on WFLA Now to go over things. Hello to you from the Stream Center. Not exactly the news that we were really hoping for, especially considering, you know what really makes this most difficult of all? I'll explain what makes this most difficult of all. Check out the weather. Absolutely. Mother Nature did her job today. And we had beautiful skies for what would have been an 8:33 launch. So it wasn't Mother Nature getting in the way. It was just mechanics. It was just, of course, the incredible science that is done by NASA, the engineering that is done by NASA to get these massive rockets, of course, the 4 RS-25 engines that power SLS, to get all of that propulsion and all the science behind it to launch Orion and to launch SLS out of low Earth orbit into outer space and on the way to the moon. All of that technology was, of course, let's make this clear. The amount of science that has to go correctly and the amount of mechanics and engineering that has to go correctly for this operation to be a green light is extraordinary. It's unfathomable to think about how much needs to go well for a launch of this magnitude to occur. And so it didn't happen today. It will happen, of course, on Friday, as we can only hope. And we're going to stay optimistic, as we do here on WFLA Now. We were optimistic as of 10 minutes ago that we would have a launch today. It didn't happen, but we're going to remain optimistic now for a launch on Friday. There might be some folks who are leaving the NASA TV broadcast and heading over our way. We're going to try to have a conversation here with you on WFLA Now. We're going to feature some of your comments out of the Facebook Live and YouTube Live comment sections on, of course, WFLA Now using hashtag HeyJB. So we'll look for some of the comments here now. What is your reaction? We're going to try to get to some comments first on YouTube. And looking for some of the comments that are like this comment from Tom. This is the right attitude, folks. Tom says, hashtag HeyJB. Hey, the moon's not going anywhere. It's true. That big rock that you see in the sky every night and sometimes during the day too, it'll still be there on Friday. And it's waiting for us. And again, man, you know what's going to be really great though when we get SLS, when we get Artemis in orbit of the moon, and we could start to bring you some of the live footage from the orbit of the moon and show you a little bit of the surface. And for a few weeks, the Dark Side of the Moon won't just be a Pink Floyd album. It'll be something that we can live stream and talk to you guys about. It's going to be extraordinary once we do get to that point. But of course, SLS has to launch, make its trek to the moon. And but when we start to get that footage in, that is going to be extraordinarily exciting. Looking for some other comments in our comment section. Tish Bowman, hashtag HeyJB. I'll be here on Friday. My trip to Mars is next month. Well, maybe one day we can say that. Maybe one day we can, just like an American Airlines flight or a United flight or a JetBlue flight, just say, hey, my flight to Mars, that's next week. One day we'll be able to say that. Let's see here, some other comments in our comments. Facebook Live, YouTube Live. Hello there. You can use hashtag HeyJB to get my attention, and we'll feature some of your comments. Josh says, just to say, well, that was disappointing. I guess I'll see all of you on Friday. Yeah, come back on Friday. We're gonna have the same coverage and try to bring you the very latest and hopefully a countdown that does not halt at T-minus 40 minutes. Looking for some other comments in the comment section. Let's go Let's go check over on Facebook and say hello to our commenters on Facebook. We can. Of course we can. Saying hello to all of you on Facebook Live as well. Oh, yeah, you know, this is a good comment to bring up. Haley Pratt, #HeyJB. I just feel bad for all the people that lined up to watch it and have been there for hours. We did have a live shot. Well, actually, yeah, no, I can't. There are some feeds of some folks that are now leaving. I don't have the rights to be able to show you that feed, unfortunately. But let me explain. This is especially painful for those who traveled for this. Look, if you live on the east coast of Florida, especially near the Space Coast or on the Space Coast, if you live in the vicinity of Kennedy Space Center within an hour's drive, you have a great view of this launch. You do. You have an outstanding launch view. If you traveled from out of country to be here in Florida and you can't stay till Friday, those are the people that I really feel for. So Haley, thanks for your comment. Looking for some others. I just had a comment. It was too fast. It was scrolling on my feed. Somebody who's asking for more of a technical explanation. And that is not my strong suit, but it is the strong suit of my colleague, Amanda Holly, who I'm now going to bring in live from Kennedy Space Center, our WFLA space correspondent. Amanda, we were just talking about the people that traveled to Kennedy Space Center to see a launch today, how disappointed they are. That includes you. While Amanda is our space correspondent, she's also as big of a fan of NASA, SpaceX, and all things space as anybody I've ever met. So let me just first, Amanda, just kind of check in on you. How you doing? I know you're disappointed, but what's the latest?
Listen, I've had to prepare myself for this because coming over here, we knew this was an option. You know, the first time we're launching this rocket, there's bound to be issues, and you know, NASA did their best. The teams, they did their best to work through some of those issues. They couldn't work through all of them today. So yeah, a little disappointed, but I knew that, you know, it was a possibility coming over here today. Now, I'm not the only ones disappointed, believe me. I made my whole family come over here along with, you know, hundreds of thousands of other people to the East Coast, the Space Coast of Florida to try and watch this launch today. But of course, everyone knew that it was a possibility that this launch was not going to happen. So disappointment, yes, but we eventually got to get this rocket off the ground, whether it's today. We don't know if they're going to try on Friday or Monday yet. We got to work through, the teams have to work through some of that data to see what went wrong, to see if that's something that can be fixed on the pad, on the launch pad, or if it's something major that they maybe have to swap out an engine and they got to roll back to the vehicle assembly building, swap it out in there, and then roll it back. So we will keep you updated on that. For now, though, it is not launching today because of the engine issue that we've been talking about all morning.
Amanda, you've got some incredible props in front of you there. Can you do some show and tell for us and explain to the folks exactly what went wrong today for NASA and really the section of the mission that led to this being scrubbed here today?
Yeah, so we kind of just broke down the whole assembly of the actual rocket itself. But when you look at the rocket, the orange tank in the middle, it's very noticeable, right? That big tank. At the bottom of that, there are 4 main engines, and they are RS-25 engines. That might sound familiar because RS-25 engines were used on the shuttle. There were 3 of them on the shuttle. This one has 4 of them, and actually the 4 that are on the Artemis 1 rocket have flown before, which is really cool. At least parts of them have flown before from other missions. Now they are modified, but what happened is in one of those engines, they're calling it engine 3. There's 4 of them. They're numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. Engine 3 was having an issue with the hydrogen bleed. So they're putting hydrogen through it. They're trying to cool it down to temperatures so that when that fuel and everything starts to go through it and it ignites, there's not a big shock to the system, basically. So when they were going through that engine bleed, the pressure, there was something off with the pressure and there was something off with the temperature. It was a little difficult to decipher exactly what was going on, if it, you know, was the pressure, temperature combination of the two. I just know that it was within that engine that they're having issues at the bottom of that orange rocket. And unfortunately, they were not able to fix and get to the bottom of it before the end of the window today.
Amanda is doing television coverage for, of course, a lot of television stations across the country, including our own here at WFLA. Amanda, before we begin the live Q&A, want to ask exactly how long you have. We are now going to begin the live Q&A, folks, as we do here on WFLA Now with hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyAmanda. So, Amanda, just want to check in with you. How long do you have for our live Q&A?
Got about 5 minutes with you, JB. I'll answer some questions, and then I got to kind of see what's next from here for us, too, from a coverage standpoint, now that we have an official scrub, what we have to do in terms of stories for you guys later on today and what we'll work on.
Okay, folks, you have really probably about 3 minutes to get in your questions. If you use hashtag HeyJB or hashtag HeyAmanda, we can feature your comments on screen. In particular, this type of question. A new peer, hashtag HeyJB, saying love from India. We've had a lot of folks watching from Asia and India in particular. And they're asking what type of fuel is used in SLS, Amanda?
Yeah, so it's a mixture of several different types of fuel. So first of all, I'm going to pick up this prop right here. What you see on both sides of that orange tank are these solid rocket boosters, these big white long cylindrical things. These have solid fuel in them, and not exactly sure what fuel is in them, but they burn with a lot of power. There's 2 of them on this SLS rocket, and they provide 75% of the 8.8 million pounds of thrust. So yeah, a lot. There's 2 of them, and combined 75% of the total power of this rocket. So that's really cool there. Now the orange tank that you see on this in the middle of the rocket, that orange cylinder, that has liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen in separate tanks. When you combine those 2 together and give it a spark, that ignites, and that provides a lot of fuel as well. So the solid rocket boosters, they burn for 2 minutes, the first 2 minutes of flight, and then that orange core tank will continue to burn and mix that liquid hydrogen and the liquid oxygen, and that will burn out of the 4 engines at the bottom of that tank for a total of 8 minutes before that whole system separates away from the second stage, which is what we have on top of that orange tank. The second stage will then help to propel the Orion spacecraft out of Earth's gravitational pull. So you have fuel in this upper stage as well. So this is sitting on top of the orange tank. You have the second stage with another engine on it. This will burn, and then this will help to push the Orion spacecraft out to lunar orbit. So that's kind of the last step there. And then on the Orion spacecraft, there's another engine on that one, and that will help to kind of get it around the moon and back. So lots of different types of fuel. The orange core tank, though, that has a lot of liquid oxygen and a lot of liquid nitrogen within it, and that provides a lot of the power as well.
Not really the 89 octane fuel that you're picking up from your local Exxon Mobil gas station. It's not exactly that simple, folks. Let's get to this one from Dreboy, hashtag HeyJB. We've been talking about how this is the most powerful rocket that has ever been designed, really, to take mankind into really not just the moon, but beyond the moon. So Dreboy's asking, what makes this rocket so powerful, Amanda?
Yeah, kind of what I just talked about. The 2 solid rocket boosters, they provide 75% of that 8.8 million pounds of thrust. So they burn for 2 minutes, they get it off the pad, they get it rolling really fast, and then the orange core tank will continue to burn for about 6 more minutes after that and help to continue to propel it into higher Earth's atmosphere. So those two main systems are the first stage, and then that second stage gets it out of Earth's gravitational pull and into a lunar orbit.
This is a great one from Be Curious, hashtag HeyJB. Why is it called Artemis? And I know that the name of this mission has something to do with the last mission that we had to the moon.
Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting things with the Artemis name. So Artemis, first and foremost, is the twin sister of Apollo. And just to update you, JB, I know that our camera battery is about to die, so I just want to give you that update. But Artemis is the twin sister of Apollo. Apollo was the first generation that took us to the moon the first time, right? So that's the first kind of cool tidbit with this name. But Artemis is a female as well. So we're landing the first female on the moon with this Artemis program as well. And there's a lot of cool facts with the logo, the A of the Artemis program. You've got the moon in the background, or excuse me, the Earth in the background, the moon in the foreground. There's a lot of kind of loops going around that Artemis A, and Artemis is a hunter, and she's got an arrow, so that's kind of incorporated with that logo as well. So yeah, they put a lot of thought into this one, and it is very fitting.
And we're going to get out on this one last question that we have here, Amanda, really quickly, because I know that your battery on your camera is about to go. Let's see if we can get this on screen. And this comment comes in from, let's get it loaded up. Oh, it comes in from David. Hashtag Hey Amanda, and question about the troubleshooting. When the hydrogen team attempted to fix this bleed/chill issue, when can it be determined if it was software or more severe mechanical issue? So what David is asking is whether or not this is a mechanical issue, a software issue. Are we going to get up? I'm going to kind of also just ask this question. We're going to get updates between now and Friday as to this problem in particular, correct, Amanda?
Absolutely. The teams right now, they've been working really hard going over whether this was a software issue, whether it was a mechanical issue. They got to work through all of that, and right now the main issue that they're going to have to work through is kind of defueling all of the rocket, and then maybe they have to go out to the pad to look at it, to inspect it. So that's one of the questions that the team has been working through all morning, and we will get an update before Friday to see if they're going to launch on Friday. But we won't know that until we get the official word.
We'll keep you posted, folks, on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. That's where we'll have all things Artemis, everything that you need to know about, again, the planned launch on this Friday, September 2nd. Amanda, go get yourself a bite to eat, go get yourself a drink, and have a safe trip back here to Tampa Bay. Send all of our very best here at WFLA to the whole family. I know they're disappointed, but hopefully history will be had on Friday. Thanks for joining us. All right, you guys, back here with you live on WFLA Now. That's Amanda Holly. Give her a follow on social media. She'll be nerding out over the next few days about everything having to do with Artemis and Artemis 1. We're going to be concluding our stream here on Facebook Live, the very latest updates on your Nexstar sister station, or excuse me, our Nexstar sister station websites and platforms across the country. So whatever website that you're watching on right now, or app that you're watching on, or social media platform that you're watching on, that website will have coverage on Artemis throughout the week as we get a little bit closer to Friday, September 2nd. So wherever you're watching from right now, you might see it, especially on social media, a link in the description on this video. You can click on that, and it'll take you over to your television station's website for more coverage and more of the information that you need to know about Artemis 1. We continue the live stream on YouTube Live for just a few more minutes, but to Facebook Live, we say our farewell from the WFLA Now Stream Center. Again, if you'd like to join the conversation that we're about to have, come find us on the WFLA YouTube page. All right, as we conclude things here on Facebook Live, we now say hello again to our audience on YouTube Live. I also found it interesting. What does scrubbed mean? Scrubbed is an interesting word. I'm not sure why they use the word scrubbed, Dre Boy, but I was also thinking that as well. It's been that way for a long time. The word scrubbed, not just scrubbing your kitchen floor, but scrubbing a launch. And why that word is used, I'm not entirely sure. So Pamixon, hashtag HJB, when is the rocket launching? We're hoping for Friday, September 2nd. Yeah, everyone's asking the same question. Pun Parker asking when is it going to fly? We hope on Friday. And I'll let some folks kind of chime in on any final hashtag HJB comments that we have here on the live stream. There is going to be no more updates from Operation Control on the NASA TV broadcast. Any additional updates will, of course, come from NASA's primary, platforms for getting information out, which is really, I mean, look, it's Twitter. It's Twitter, it's Facebook, Instagram, I'm sure gets updates as well. NASA.tv, the NASA website. These are places where really that information is going to come out. Lauren Smith, hashtag AJB, hi from California. Hope to see the launch on Friday. To the moon or bust? Yes, to the moon or bust. Banky, yep, next launch Friday, 12:48 Eastern time. Means I won't have to wake up at 4 a.m. for launch coverage. Did that today. Not the best way to, of course. But you know what? Getting up that early was not difficult this morning because it's exciting. You're going in for launch coverage. That's fun. Even though, look, it's not what we wanted it to be. Getting out of bed this morning wasn't that hard, even though it was 4 in the morning, because it's an exciting assignment. It really is. Tish Bauman, hashtag AJB, do you think that the storms in the Atlantic will be a problem? I think our forecast will come more into focus on Wednesday. That's when we really get more of an hour-by-hour accurate forecast. Not to say that we don't. We have a general idea on WFLA.com. Let's go to WFLA.com/weather and look at what things look like for Friday. Here's your 8-day forecast. And Friday, yeah, the same as every other day this week. Showers, and more likely in the evening, not the afternoon. Now, look, it's Florida. And for those of you unaware of the weather pattern that we get into this time of year in Florida, it rains in the evening. But, in fact, look at this. How serendipitous is that? Right as we were talking about the weather, some rain droplets. Some rain falls from the skies high above the SLS, and it is now drizzling over the launch pad. And that's exactly Florida in a nutshell. It'll rain for a few minutes, and then it'll be gone. 1 minute it'll be cloudy. Another minute it will be sunny and clear. On Saturday, I was out here in Tampa, and I was out with some family. And there was one moment in the evening where, right where we were standing, the sky was split down the middle. One side was dark, ominous, and looked like a hurricane. And the other side was crystal clear and beautiful. And we were like right on the line. And that's Florida. Isolated storms, scattered thunderstorms. That's part of the weather pattern here in Florida. So look, it's raining now a little bit on the launch pad, on launch pad 39B, Kennedy Space Center, but this will likely be gone in a few minutes. And so clouds and look, and you don't want rain in the forecast, but that's not going to indefinitely put off a launch. Look, torrential rain and storms that blow through that are worse than your typical scattered thunderstorm on a Florida afternoon or evening. That could lead to some significant problems, but there have been launches that have happened in the past where it'll rain at the beginning of the launch window, just a little bit. Skies will clear up, and then a little bit after that, you're launched. So, Crystal, thank you for the comment. First time wearing this suit. First time. I was frogs. Hashtag AJB. Really saddened to see Artemis 1 get scrubbed. Guess no lunar cheese for today. A new hashtag AJB. What are the chances of the mission getting handled because it's raining? Again, just not really that high, not as high as you would think. You would think, oh, it's raining, they're not going to launch. It's not that simple. Rain comes and goes in Florida very quickly. Yeah, like Miss Connie is saying, hashtag AJB, rainy there, and it's sunny and 76 and beautiful in Avon Park. Not surprised. I'm looking outside our windows. Nice right now in downtown Tampa. It's beautiful, actually. Beautiful morning. And look, it was beautiful 15 minutes ago. Gorgeous. Likely still is gorgeous from the launch pad. It's just a stray storm or a stray rain cloud. Oh my goodness. Caleb, hashtag KJB, can the rocket lift an elephant? This rocket cannot lift an elephant. Orion is built for human beings. But if there was enough will to send the first elephant into outer space, I believe that a capsule or a rocket that carries an elephant, I believe it is possible. What is the average weight of an elephant? Welcome to our live streams, where at any moment you're going to get this type of conversation. Elephant weight. Okay, so the elephants can range anywhere from 6,000 to 13,000 pounds. All right, maybe I'm making it sound a little too easy. Getting a elephant into outer space. Maybe I should bite my tongue. But hey, look, we can get a monkey into outer space, but a little bit different when you're talking about an elephant. But look, necessity is the mother of invention. If we ever had this dire need to put an elephant on the moon, look, will it happen one day? Who knows? 1,000 years from now? Who knows? Will there ever be a zoo on the moon? What will be the first non-human life form to land from Earth onto the moon? Can you imagine having the first dog on the moon? That'd be pretty cool. Or for me, a cat. I got my cats at home. Love my cats. The first pet on the moon. All the firsts are going to be enormous for the moon when we do colonize the planet. It's going to be exciting. I mean, look, there are some big firsts that we got to get to. The first woman setting foot on the moon. That's just a massive. The first person of color landing on the moon. These are massive firsts. But then there's going to be some fun ones that are also going to occur. I was joking earlier. Hey, look, NASA, right here, as far as the first reporter on the moon, it's not going to happen. But I'll throw my name in the hat. That would be fun. The first meal cooked on the moon. What should be the first? I'm going to ask this to our YouTube live audience. What should be the first meal prepared on the moon? Now, I'm not talking about the stuff that you would bring with you to the moon's like surface, like a granola bar that you would bring from Earth. I'm talking about preparing a meal on the surface of the moon. What should be the first meal? Like, you take the ingredients. Yeah, all right, from Earth. Let's say you have the ingredients from Earth, and you have it on the moon, and you're cooking the very first meal that is actually prepared on the moon's surface. What should it be? DG says, hashtag AJB, probably a salad. Okay. Come on, let's think big. Oh, Midgie 2. Something with cheese. See, there you go. But what with cheese? I like where Vicky's head is at. I love steak. How do you not love steak? What cut of steak, Vicky? Filet mignon? Sirloin? Prime rib? I don't know what you mean, RI. What is the length of Artemis 1? Do you mean like the length of the mission? Or do you mean the length of the rocket? I think you mean the length of the rocket. I believe. And that, I believe, is, looking up here, fast facts, it's like 45 feet or something like that. Lee Span walking in, everybody. I don't. That's good. I don't want no scrubs. That is from Lee Span, everybody. Lee, what is the first meal that should be prepared on the moon? We're talking with our audience here. The first meal. Do you want to sit down? Do you have a moment? You want here? Let me load up everybody. Meteorologist Lee Span. It'll take me just a moment to get her. We're having just a fun. We're trying to cheer people up. After the scrub that nobody wanted, and let's hit this button here to bring in everybody. Our very own Lee Span joining us here, everybody on WFLA now. Hi, Lee.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. Well, now, so one of my favorite foods is raw oysters,
Oh,
which I feel like would
wow.
be pretty easy to take up there. You just pack them in some ice, right?
Yeah.
So maybe
Crack them on the half shell.
crack them on the half shell. Yeah.
Man, see, that sounds really good. All right, so
What's everybody else been saying?
man, so we got cheeseburger here from Jamie. Yeah, look, it's hard to get more American than a
that's true.
cheeseburger. Holly says spaghetti and meatballs should be the first. Now, remember, guys, for the exercise, this is ingredients that we are taking to the moon to prepare the first ever meal on the moon. What would it be?
Oh, so not just my favorite. Oh, okay.
Right.
I was thinking my first.
Well, okay. So,
yeah, so if I were going up, what would be the first thing I ate was how I took that question. Oh, the first ever. Ooh.
what should be what you're right? Okay, so if it was Lee Span, astronaut Lee Span, you're talking about oysters.
Oysters.
Got
Okay,
it.
so yeah, so you gotta go quintessentially American, I guess. So I mean, you either go hot dogs, hamburgers, or steak and potatoes.
How about Crystal Shepherd #AGB steak and lobster?
Yep.
Surf and turf. That would be there'd be some symbolism in that because right.
Yeah, the whole because it encompasses the entire world.
That's right.
Surf and turf.
Surf and turf.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I like the
meaning,
symbolism.
some meaning there. Chelbell #AGB moon pies for dessert.
Yes.
Love it. Okay. I think that you could probably get like a moon pie. Moon pies last forever. Like you'll look in your pantry and be like, oh, this one's from 28, not like 2008.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh man,
And you're like,
Still
it's
good.
a little stale. It tastes the same.
tastes exactly the same. It'll make it to the moon. Let's see here. Luke #AGB waffles. Waffles would. I don't know if that would be hard or easy to prepare on the moon. It would be pretty
Probably
easy.
would be there. Yeah, you'd have pre-mixed waffle mix
That's
that
the
you could
trick.
bring with you, and then you could just put it in a waffle line.
Miss Connie says #AJB. First meal should be barbecue ribs and mac and cheese. I think I know where Miss Connie's from. Got to be from a southern state.
Oh yes.
Yeah, with some ribs and mac and cheese. There's some grits in there too. Yeah, so just a little bit of a fun conversation. ASMR, Q, Swedish meatballs. Yeah, no, that will not be just like. Could you do French fries as the first side dish because it's French now? It's French, but it's not French.
But it's not French. It's
Right, 'cause
quintessentially American.
It's so American. See, Nevin Matthews says French fries for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, some French fries on the. So we were talking about also too. There's going to be a lot of fun firsts, Lee, on the moon. I was joking earlier about how much fun it would be to do the first live news report on the moon, like a reporter. Like, I guess you could argue that Neil Armstrong gave the first ever like live shot, but
Yeah.
like the first ever
give him
journalist,
that, I guess.
the first ever journalist to be on the moon. What about the first weather report? on the
I
moon?
was just about to say it because there isn't really any atmosphere up there, but it's clear skies as far as you can see. I'd love it.
Would there ever be such a thing as a moon meteorologist? No, right?
I mean, I think that we would have to be all enclosed, right? Like we wouldn't be able to just
Be on the surface.
be on the surface without any coverings.
Yeah,
because we need
air, oxygen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sure, I could talk about the, what it's like on Earth back home.
Right. Give a weather forecast about Earth from the moon.
Right.
I guess,
Yeah.
look, for people joining us again, the delay, it's in big letters on the bottom of your screen. Artemis 1 launch scrub set for Friday. What was your initial reaction, Lee, when you heard the news?
Not terribly surprised, and that was because Amanda Holly, who knows all, said that because this is the first time this rocket has ever launched before, there was probably going to be problems. And then we also knew weather-wise that the later you got into that window from 8:30 to 10:30, the worse the weather was going to be. So if they did have to delay it for anything, so I wasn't surprised. I was sad, of course, because that's how we all wanted to see that thing go up. But you also want to get it right. I mean, the worst thing would have been to send it up and that crack, or what, the leak or whatever. What was the final reason? Well, I know there was a couple of things that kind of went.
Engine problems, and then this insulation crack in one of the rockets in the core stage. So.
And I mean, how awful would we have felt if it had been destroyed because of that? So this is the way we do things. We don't send it up until we know that they're right, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah. So look, we're gonna have the same launch coverage on Friday. Do we know Amanda going to be there on Friday? I believe
Amanda will be there on Friday, but she also said that they haven't said, because they don't know the extent of the damage or the issue. And so they'll have to check it out. And if they have to roll it back to the facility, then it won't go up on Friday. So they haven't made that for sure. That's the next launch window if something were to happen, like weather or something like that, or they can get it fixed while it's still out on the launch pad. But if they have to roll it back in, it's not going to go up on Friday. But if it is scheduled, Amanda will be right there giving us that firsthand account.
I'm looking forward to updates, and I'm looking forward to.
And quick shout out too to Dave Kraut, the photographer who's with Amanda. He 3D prints a 2-scale model of these things. And so Amanda was able to, unlike any coverage in the world, I would imagine, she was able to point to the places that the problems were occurring, where we could see them, where she was pointing. I found that just fascinating.
Yeah. And that ribbing area of the core stage, that Amanda being able to do some show and tell, certainly a benefit to our coverage, and Dave deserves all the credit in the world for, again, 2-scale is pretty wild. How much attention
and days and days printing that. So we appreciate it.
Pretty extraordinary. We'll end out this live stream another just 5 minutes or so. We'll move beyond food and meals and stuff. What will be? We were talking earlier about history, Lee, about the first woman who will set foot on the surface of the moon, the first person of color who will set foot on the surface of the moon. But beyond that, once we get into the borderline silly area, what are some other firsts that are going to... I ask our audience for how many joining us on YouTube Live. We're still live for about 7,000 or 8,000 or so people. So for those of you who are in our YouTube Live comment section, use hashtag #HeyLee, hashtag #HeyJB, and tell us what will be some fun firsts once we do set foot on the moon and then eventually colonize.
So that's what I was going to say, is the first sleep there, because you and they have to go back to the capsule, but when we have enough equipment there that someone could actually sleep, get up the next day and continue the work, I think that'll be very, very, very fascinating.
The first night sleep. Yeah. That's a great one. Be curious. Okay, they're all coming in now. Okay. Flop Dog, the first haircut.
The first haircut
on the moon. Shave. That's an interest. The first shave on the moon. Yeah. Be curious. The first pool on the moon. Now that's going to be a challenge.
We'll have to bring in water.
Hey, look, they just switched the shot here. Not great.
Yeah, the weather, there was a little shower on top of everything that also was there right at 8:30 as well. And there it is.
Yeah, not great looking out there. So I think that there was probably a little bit of a window right there at 8:30, and then really around 8:45 things started to really shift as far as getting grayer and darker. How about... Oh, I love this.
Oh, how could we have not thought about that?
The first selfie on the moon. Nevin Matthews, this is interesting. The first computer on the moon, but I would imagine there's already been that type of. I guess I don't know if you would call it a computer, but there, of course, when we landed on the moon decades ago, there was already advanced technological equipment that likely did have some forms of computers, of course, but I don't know, that has an actual computer, what you would define as a computer been on the moon? I'm not sure.
I don't know, because we always, the fascinating thing to say is that everybody in the world now carries around in their pocket more computing power than they went to the moon in the 60s with. So the fact that, they had some computing, big room-sized computers, there was certainly not ones like even close to what we carry around in our pockets with our phones these days. So something to that effect, yes. I mean, what we would consider a personal computer has not been on the moon.
This is really over now because they just went to You Are Watching.
It has been fun. We will see you on Friday, maybe.
See you later. So they're now going to the NASA broadcast to show you some of the fun clips and some of the fun programming that they have all the time on NASA TV. We're going to go through a few more here. I keep seeing this. I don't know why. The first Dollar General.
I think that's trending for some reason.
Is it?
I'm not sure, but just Dollar General in
general?
In general is trending. I'll give you $1.
Christina Rich, #KG, what should be the first movie watched or even made on the moon? That's an interesting one. The first blog, says Einen. Michael, #KJB, the first disco. Yeah. See, that's the first dance party.
I can tell by the way I use my walk.
I'm a lunar man.
Yeah, I'm a lunar man.
No time to talk. That's awesome. I love it. Let's see. The first ever orchestra on the moon. Wow, that's a powerful thought.
It'd be beautiful.
It
again, you wouldn't be able to hear it open, but yeah, I mean, the whole idea is that we're building something to close it. Yeah,
to close it off.
Beautiful.
Ken Bowser, the first bit of sarcasm. That's great.
I'm willing to bet that Buzz Aldrin said something sarcastic out there that didn't get beamed back to the United States.
Yep. First, Venkat making a good point. First, we talked about this earlier, the first person of color. These are important, big firsts. And then we're now getting into the lesser important. Oh, this is a great one. You're going to love this. You're going to love this.
Okay.
You're going to love this. How about the first wedding on the moon?
I do love it.
Now, that is awesome.
That'll be.
Then look, as we're looking here at some NASA TV programming of the lunar surface. The first wedding on the moon.
That's a good one.
The first person to propose on the moon. Ooh, these are really good ones now. That's
setting the bar really high.
It is. Because how do you, all engagements or weddings, like you got married on the moon. Yeah. Like if your friend got married on the moon, then you're just like.
It's a destination.
That's a destination wedding.
That's a destination.
That's the joke. Okay, wait, hold on. I've got the rim shot for it. There it is. That's a great one. Speaking of a type of comment, I wonder if Jeff Bezos was watching today. Oh. Christina Rich, the first Amazon delivery. You think Prime 2 days extends to the moon?
At some point, yes.
At some point it will.
At some point, yes.
They'd
have to have with Blue Horizon. What, Blue Origin? Why am I?
Yeah, Blue Origin.
Blue Origin. They'd be like, okay, we're sitting. It'll be 2 days because we have to spend 2 days in space to get you. But I think, why not?
How about the first house on the moon? Yep, Sai, I think you're onto something here. One or two more before we got to get going. Julian, the first skyscraper on the moon. I don't want to see skyscrapers. I don't think that. Well, maybe one day, thousands of years.
We won't see those. Yeah, I was gonna say we won't see those.
No, we won't. And I think, I don't know. That's an interesting. I like to think of a cityscape on the surface of the moon, or even Mars is kind of such a crazy sci-fi-esque kind of concept. And then we'll end out on this one, because you have to wonder if this will ever happen one day. We went from proposal to wedding. How about the first ever baby born on the moon? Now we're getting really deep into some sci-fi stuff, because now we're talking about
Artemis.
It's not an Earthling anymore. We're all Earthlings.
Right, that's
the one thing we have in common. We're all Earthlings. And so if we have a baby born on the moon, you're not an Earthling, right? Or are you? Because you are. No. You're a human being, but you're not born of Earth, so you're not an Earthling. These are.
We will leave you with that to ponder for the rest of the day.
And if you are born on the surface of Mars, I guess
you are a Martian.
You are a Martian.
Yep.
So My goodness. Folks, these are the conversations. I hope that this cheered you up a little bit after, of course, we had the wah, wah. Do I have that sound effect? I think I do. Oh, yeah, the trombone. Yes. Unfortunate news today that the Artemis 1 launch has been scrubbed. Amanda Holly is a great follow on social. Yeah. And keep it locked to WFLA.com, the WFLA app. We will have updates on Artemis 1 as things progress throughout the week. As NASA releases updates, we'll have all of our coverage that lives there. So we plan on doing this again on Friday, and hopefully we don't have to, we can talk about the rocket heading to the moon rather than talking about
on the backside of the moon.
Like the first McDonald's that, you know, that we're getting this comment in from. That there's a McDonald's everywhere.
Starbucks.
It's just a matter. Yeah, there's going to be a Starbucks on the moon. There's going to be a McDonald's on the moon. Prime deliveries on the moon. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yep. Folks, let's give a big round of applause for Lee Spann.
Hey, yeah. I just talked it. Thank you to JB for hosting this. Sorry we didn't get to see it launch, but we will try it again.
We will try it again on Friday, September 2nd, folks. In the afternoon, we'll probably start our coverage here online a little bit early. Hope you join us for our pre-launch coverage, and then hopefully we have liftoff and post-launch coverage live from the WFLA Now Stream Center. Really appreciate you spending part of your Monday morning with us. Have a great work week, and we hope that you'll see us on Friday for launch coverage of Artemis 1 and a bit of history to bring you. Folks, for Lee Spann, I'm JB Buno. Thanks so much for joining us. To all the commenters, use #HeyLee, #HeyJB. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time on WFLA.